I've seen a lot of talk lately about some high-end cards and how the value of high-end cards have been dropping during this early stages of what is perceived to be a recession. What about the low and mid-range cards, the cards that we can afford? How are we seeing price points there? What's happening there? I want to look at the specific numbers of certain examples of cards that I've been tracking since February and see how they compare today on this episode of DIY Sports Cards. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of DIY Sports Cards, a production of IconicTradingCards.com. This is the place where we take a deep dive into the buying and selling of sports cards for collectors and investors alike. I am Ramon, the founder of this channel. How are y'all doing? Everybody catching your breath? I know early stages this past weekend there's been a lot of crazy activity, especially on eBay auctions, where card sales, are coming in way lower than what we've seen even just 2 weeks ago. Now, I know a lot of folks have been talking about card sales crashing big time on the high-end cards, the high-value cards, the ones that are up there in the 5 and 6 digit cards. But truth be told, do we really care about that market? I know I don't, because I don't hang out in that market. I'm more interested in understanding the market of cards whose values are ranged somewhere between the $300 to $3,000 range, and maybe a little bit higher. This is where I care. So today I want to take a look at some examples of cards I've been tracking since mid-Q1 of 2022 and see how those cards are performing. The results may not surprise you. At least you'll see how these examples are performing and perhaps give an indication of how the current card market is responding. Okay, so the first card we're going to look at is Ja Morant. This is his base Prism rookie card in a PSA 10. Now on February 12th, you could buy this card for a little over $237 on auction with a very expensive shipping cost, but I digress. Go 90 days into the future, on May 12th, you could get that card for $181.50. Now if you look this past weekend, that card dropped even further to $142.51. All of these are on auction. So we dropped nearly $100 in value, and if you include the shipping costs from the February transaction to now, you have lost over $100. Big drop in this, and that's actually something close to 40-45%. Ultramodern basketball is not looking too good right now. Maybe let's take another example. Let's look at the base rookie Luka Doncic in a PSA 10. Again, I'm looking at these cards because they have a tremendous amount of volume, lots of transactions. These transactions take place in the thousands in terms of volume of transactions. So that's a good data point to look at. All right, back in February, his card sold for over $400, $402. That was about right. I remember selling mine at that time for $402. Kind of regretting I didn't sell for $800 back in late Q3 of last year. That transaction 90 days later, still around $400. It actually is holding tight. So I was given the indication that perhaps the Luka Doncic value was staying put because he was doing well in May. Now look this past weekend, that card has dropped. Now we're looking at $320. That's about a 20% reduction in value from February 12th to June 19th. Not so bad as the Ja Morant, but definitely one that shows double-digit drops nonetheless. Okay, let's look at another example. Let's switch to baseball. This is the Topps Chrome Juan Soto in a Gem Mint 10, also in a base card. Now, back in February, on February 12th, that card sold for $265. Okay, that's about right. Fast forward 90 days, a little bit of a drop. Looks like it's about, let's call it 15, 16, 17% reduction at around $220, also on auction. Fast forward to this past weekend, that card can now be found for $150 flat. So you're seeing a $115 or more drop from mid-February to June 19th. Again, massive, massive drop. Jeez. Okay, let's look at the next one. All right, maybe this is just the Juan Soto factor. Let's see what's happening on the Mike Trout front. Now, we know his cards have been dropping, even though his performance on the field has been great. So let's see what this looks like. Okay, back in February, that card could be had for a little under $1,100, $1,080 to be exact. Fast forward 90 days, 89 days, that card was seeing action under $1,000. So getting about $989, that's actually pretty good. And if you look at the number of bids on that, if I'm reading that correctly, that's 65 bids. So this isn't exactly one where there were a few bids. There was a lot of action to try to get to that point. Pretty good deal if you ask me. Or is it? Because if you fast forward to this past weekend, that card was had for $949. Folks, on my slabs, I saw this card also go for $900 flat. It's amazing what you're seeing in these cards. These are the popular cards. These cards are the ones that represent the ultra modern or the modern. Big names like Juan Soto, Mike Trout, they should be carrying. In fact, you're seeing their prices plummet a little bit compared to other players, or in addition to other players. So this might be a response to elements in society that's a little bit more macro than just the sports card market itself. Let's look at some more examples. Okay, next one. How about the Upper Deck rookie Ken Griffey Jr. card in a PSA 10? Now, back in mid-February, you could have that card for $1,953. That's under $2,000. That's actually pretty significant. I was talking in my last video that there was action below $2,000 on this card, and it looks like it's been happening for a while. So what's happening now? In May, actually went up. It actually rebounded a little bit, got above 2,000. Not by much, but it did show some favorability. So what has happened since May to last weekend? We saw close to a $240 drop in price. A $250 drop is painful. And it's unfortunate, but maybe not. If you haven't bought it and you're waiting for a good buying point, you may be approaching an opportunity here. All right, next one. Let's see what vintage is doing in this time of age. Okay, so back in February, you could buy this card at $1,299 on a buy it now. I couldn't find an auction on this, but as such, here we are. What's interesting about this is that same seller in Miami, Florida, sold another PSA 5 Nolan Ryan rookie card in May for the exact same price. He was able to keep his business and he was able to keep pricing flat. Now, fast forward to this past weekend. Okay, the card dropped $50. Maybe there's a little bit of an impact, but to me, that's more of an incremental drop. So it tells me that this Nolan Ryan card throughout since February to now is really holding its value. Will it continue to hold? Man, to be honest, I hope not. I'd love to see this card drop a little bit. I would love to see this be a sub $1,000 card so that I can jump in and get a real bargain. But that's how the market is. All right, next card. All right, let's look at the 1964 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 4. Geez, that card's awful looking. Are you sure that's a 4? Yeah, anyways. The centering is awful. Maybe the surface looks really good, and the picture that they have here is awful. Okay, anyways, back to business here. Okay, on February 20th, this card sold for $345. Okay, pretty reasonable. What did it do 90 days later? Well, not really 90 days later. Let's call it 78 days later. That card sold for $304. Ooh, looks like a 10% drop. Is that market or is that something else? What happened in June? In June, that card's held from its May price from $304 to $306. So in this particular case, it is possible that $345 price point was just the product of an auction just rallying and people wanted to get that price. There weren't that many options on the table. I don't think this 10% drop is indicative of what the market is doing. For one, it's a Mickey Mantle card. These things always retain value. But also, number two, if you look at the number of transactions that took place between February and now on this grade 4 mantle, you're not going to see that many. So this could just be fluctuation in the marketplace, a buy and a sell. It's going to look like an EKG if you look at it on the graph. Sometimes it's going to be up here, sometimes it's down here. And the difference between top to bottom can be as much as 10%. That is what happens on vintage cards. Okay, let's look at another one. Okay, one more card, because up to this point I've been implying that vintage cards are holding its value. Now, with that in mind, I introduced to you this rookie Hank Aaron in a PSA 4. You see, back in February, you could buy this card for $5,650. That was the price point. It wasn't just once, it was multiple occasions. Just this past weekend, I was actually watching an auction, and sadly I fell asleep before it ended. But there was an auction this past weekend that closed at $3,540. All I have to say is, whoever bought that card in April, and looking at that April price point and seeing what happened in June, I really hope that owner of that April price point also got into June and tried to do some dollar cost averaging. Because in my opinion, that $3,500 sale is a steal for this card. This card's a $4,500 card. It should stay that way. So this is either something that's indicative of the market and just someone trying to cash in, because of desperation, or is this the result of something else? Not enough data points, but definitely one I'm going to be following. The numbers don't lie. It's showing a pretty sizable drop. Whether you're in the ultra modern basketball, or even modern baseball, or even the iconic cards of the 90s, it tells you, these numbers are telling you that there is a sizable drop, and it's an impact on what's going on in the bigger market right now. This still represents a golden opportunity for you to go out there and buy cards that were before out of reach from a price standpoint, but now can be purchased at a very reasonable offer. There are several cards in the last 3 weeks alone that I bought, and I want to show them to you. These are cards that I got for a song compared to how these were priced a long time ago. I got the Willie Mays in a CSG 4, 1954 tops. I got the Roberto Clemente 1956 tops in a grade 4, SGC. Picked up a 1962 Mickey Mantle in a BVG 4, Beckett 4. This one was fantastic. I picked up a 1952 Burke Ross Jackie Robinson in a PSA 3. Miscut, but a PS3 nonetheless. This card, folks, I got for 60% below last price. It was I'm very happy with that one. Also picked up a 1961 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 6. Picked up another 54 Topps Willie Mays. This one's in a PSA 4. Bought this at $400 below price at the time of sale. And lastly, added to my Mickey Mantle collection, picked up a 1966 Topps in a PSA 6 as well. If you recall from my last video, the strategies of buying. Buy what you know, have patience. Good things are going to come for you. And I think with these cards, as you can tell, I'm a big believer in vintage. So I'm going to keep my money where I know, vintage. Now, there are influencers that are going to tell you it's boring. Vintage is boring. Maybe it's a safe play. You're never going to really lose out on this. But quite honestly, in a time where recession provides all the excitement, boring is not a bad idea. Highly encourage it. Definitely stick within the elements that you know. That's really the key part here. Go with what you know. Hang tight in there, folks. The ride is going to get very bumpy, but if you're in a buying mindset, take advantage of this opportunity. It's not just this week. I think it's going to prolong for an unforeseen amount of time. You'll see the signs when things start turning around and become more bullish again, and then you can start looking at that time to be the seller. Hang tight, folks. Stay safe, be healthy, and we'll see you at the next video. Peace out.